Hi there, I am the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled, The Gift of the Ordinary. And I'm going to begin actually with an extract from a book called How the Light Gets In, Writing as a Spiritual Practice by Pat Schneider. Then I'm going to reflect my own thoughts on the gift of the ordinary. So Pat Schneider writes, "What I want back is the common everyday walk in awareness of the presence of mystery. Mystery isn't always strange. What is strange is how seldom we see it, how seldom we hear it. Mystery is as common as the gravel road and the blackberry hanging ripe on a vine in August heat in my childhood. It does not have to be paid for by any particular belief. It doesn't go away. I'm the one who goes away, walks away, runs away, crashes away. The mystery is as common as the beam of light, spruce filtered, falling on the fifth step of the stair this morning in my house in Elmhurst, Massachusetts. It is the common seen uncommonly. When we see, when we hear, when we intuit how much we are loved, it is the common that is uncommon. It is the ordinary that is the body of spirit, the physical presence of mystery. I think I was reaching for this understanding when I wrote this poem." So here is Pat Schneider's poem, The Patience of Ordinary Things. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea, how the chair stands sturdy and foursquare, how the floor receives the bottoms of shoes or toes, how sails of feet know where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things, how clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of the back, and the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? What is more generous than a window? Lovely, isn't it? Anyway, here are some of my thoughts. I was chatting with a friend on a beautiful early or late spring, summer evening, I'm not sure which one it is now, for in spring or summer, the other day, when I noticed a flower tree in the gardens here at Dunham Road, and I hadn't noticed it before. It had white petals and a yellow centre with a gentle pink around the edges. It had thorns like a rose tree. I said to my friend I hadn't noticed it before that day. I'd never seen it before, and I don't know why I'd never noticed it. We didn't know what type of flower it was, so my friend got out her phone, and through her camera in her phone, she looked at Google Lens, it's called, and it said that it was a dog rose. And when we looked up a dog rose, it certainly looked like a dog rose. Although apparently they're meant to be climbing bushes, my friend said, and this was standing alone. Proud and alone, but not against something, not climbing. Now, whatever tree, flower, plant, or whatever it is beautiful. And I don't suppose it really matters what we name such a beautiful thing. It only helps to pass on that information to others. That's what names are for, I guess. And it reminded me actually of a conversation I'd had a few weeks earlier with some friends who who had got this app on their phone that they were obsessed with, and it's a lovely app actually. If you have it open when birds are singing, it tells you what bird is the song you can hear. And there was a rebellious part of me, some Luddite in me, I think, at the time, because I remember thinking, I don't care what kind of bird it is. I just want to hear the song and maybe join in the song. And it was just a part of me, a reaction, some reactionary part of me, I suppose. But because I'm not decrying knowledge at all here. I'm interested in many things. I want to know about things. But I just don't want to get too interested in the intricacies of things that I lose sight of feasting on its natural beauty, on its natural expression through my senses. I don't want that to get in the way of the experience. Not always easy to do, though. I went for a walk last Monday evening around Altrincham with Molly, of course. Beautiful evening again, late spring or early summer. And as I was walking, I could hear the words of E. Cummings singing in my heart, I thank you, God, for most this amazing day. And I've been carrying that feeling with me for a couple of days. I was not ignoring the troubles of life. I was just experiencing the giftedness of simply being alive. We'd already been out a couple of times that day, and we were drinking in the gifts of the ordinariness of life, just singing the joy of living. Anyway, as we walked around, we bumped into a couple of half-drunk people. Well, one of them was more than half-drunk, actually, who I kind of know from the gym, the kind of people I nod and say hello to, but I don't really know them. Anyway, they were sitting outside the con club enjoying food and alcohol, and they called Molly over, and Molly always loves to go and say hello to people. They told me how lovely Molly was, one saying how lovely dogs are, how much they prefer dogs to people as he was talking to people. And as I was talking to these two people, I noticed just how they had perfect white teeth and perfect skin, not a blemish. As I left, it made me smile and wonder at my love of the slightly imperfect beauty of the natural life, natural world, of nature itself. There's something beautiful in the perfectly imperfect, I find. I was distracted by the perfection of these two people, or their attempt at perfection, while being half drunk at the same time. Anyway, me and Molly walked on, and we passed the town hall here, and as we passed, there were angel voices coming out of the building. There was a choir performing, I think practicing actually. I wasn't sure if it was part of the pride in the town hall, but actually I've discovered they practice there every week. It was beautiful to listen from the open windows, taking in these angel voices. When they had finished, I called out a bravo and applauded their efforts. It was superb. And then we carried on walking home. A neighbour appeared and we chatted about the delights that we had just listened to before I bumped into more friends who also delighted in Molly, and Molly wanted to say hello to them, even though we had to be on our way. All these wanderings and the stuff about comings and goings and one thing and another, and the gift of the ordinariness of life, it brought to mind a following from, which is an extract from Small Graces by Kent Nerburn. He wrote, "We seldom pause to shine a light upon the ordinary moments, to hallow them with our own attentiveness, to honour them with gentle caring. They pass unnoticed, lost in the ongoing rush of time. Yet it is just such a hallowing that our lives require. For though we may not live a holy life, we live in a world alive with holy moments. We need only take the time to bring these moments into the light." There is a beautiful gift in the ordinary. Brings to mind a wonderful book, The Gift of the Ordinary, which I based the title of this devotion on, by Katrina Kennison. And at the heart of the gift of the ordinary is an encouragement to appreciate the simple, the everyday moments and everyday aspects of life that can be so easily overlooked and taken for granted. The gift of the ordinary is about finding beauty, wonder and value in the unremarkable, and recognising that the ordinary act of living itself is an absolute gift. In essence, the gift of the ordinary is about shifting perspective and finding joy and meaning in the everyday, rather than always seeking out extraordinary experiences. It's about recognising that true richness can be found in the most simple of things. Something I noticed while simply walking with Molly the other evening. Something I offer to us all as we step fully into this summer. The gift of the ordinary. Now, the gift of the ordinary is at the heart of Ignatian spirituality. Ignatian spirituality is a form of Christian spirituality developed from the teachings of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. He was the founder of the Society of Jesus, what more commonly known as the Jesuits, in the 16th century. And at its heart, it's a spirituality centred around seeking God's will through everyday life and prayer, seeking a relationship with Christ, with Jesus, as they would say, as they understand God. To seek it, though, through the ordinariness of life and through love and service, of course. Its emphasis is on finding God in all things and forming a personal relationship with God through these ordinary things, all things. It is so easy to miss the beauty and the divine nature of a flower because we are too much like Dorothy, always looking for whatever is beyond the rainbow. Maybe that's why I'd never seen that tree the other day before, that rose tree, that dog rose tree, interestingly. It's about being fully present to everything right here, right now, and recognising the sacredness in everything. This is the gift of the ordinary that is at the heart of Ignatian spirituality. There are some parallels here, I think, to what Buddhists might call mindfulness. It's not exactly the same, of course it's not, but I can see similarities. Of course, these are different traditions that develop in different ways. Now, a key component to this is to be present to everything, to the most ordinary aspects of life. And there's a tale I want to share, a contemporary tale that kind of illustrates this point. A Buddhist teacher was trying to stay present to life, but was struggling with why it was so important for him to do so. He was aware that the lessons he needed to learn could come from any place in life if he only stayed open to everything. So he was there, trying really hard, going about his day, practicing doing so, while not really understanding exactly what it meant to do so. So while he was walking around town in this open and aware mood, he heard a loud noise from what seemed like hundreds of people in a large hall that he was passing by. The noise obviously took his attention, so he walked into what turned out to be a bingo hall. There was a big game going on, and he looked up at the wall of the hall, and there in front of him was the lesson he'd been seeking, the lesson he was looking for. There was a huge sign that said in large block capital letters, "You must be present to win." You must be present to win. It is said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, it seems that the teacher is always present if we are awake and paying attention to everything. There's another lesson here too, actually. It's up to us to choose to be present or we won't notice these simple gifts of the ordinary. It requires a certain kind of discipline. In fact, the mistake we can make is that we search for the wisdom on some mountaintop, and by doing so, we might miss it because we're too focused on getting to the top, to the peak, for the peak experience. But the lessons are everywhere in the ordinariness of life. As my friend Rob says, it's in Tesco's in Bagley just as much as some spiritual sight in the back of beyond. If you can't find it there, you won't find it anywhere. It's about where we are at within ourselves as opposed to where we're at in terms of a geographical location. There are no unsacred places. Everywhere is sacred if we're awake to the giftedness of it all. As it's said, you must be present to win. So it's about being present, about being open, about paying attention to everything. As Mary Oliver has pointed out, attention is the beginning of devotion. You know, there was something beautiful, simple and humble in her poetry. Her work was so real, something that really connects with me. You see, the spiritual has to be real, or it's not. It doesn't exist at all. It's not some realm beyond life. It's in life, part of life, maybe the heart of life itself. Mary Oliver's beautiful and often life-affirming poetry grew from her empathically observing her own life and her own life experiences. And having observed the life in front of her, she asks the question about life is, how do I live this life? To her, this is the essence of living religiously. It's devotional living. And as she said, attention is the beginning of devotion. To love this world is to pay attention to the simple gifts of the ordinary in life. I'm going to share with you one of Mary's great poems, and this is a poem that's essentially about spring, but early spring, so it's a bit late in the year, but I'm sure it will make sense to you. Well, and by the way, what a beautiful spring we've lived through this year, certainly in England. It's also a poem, this poem though, about how to live our mortal lives. The poem simply describes a black bear awakening from hibernation, coming down the mountain and showing her perfect love by simply being a bear and doing what a bear does. And in the poem, for Mary, there's only one question: how to love this world. And how do we love this world? By paying attention, by recognizing the gift of the ordinary. So this is Spring by Mary Oliver. Somewhere, a black bear has just risen from sleep and is staring down the mountain. All night in the brisk and shallow restlessness of early spring, I think of her, her 4 black fists flicking the gravel, her tongue like a red fire touching the grass, the cold water. There is only one question: how to love this world. I think of her rising like a black and leafy ledge to sharpen her claws against the silence of trees. Whatever else my life is, with its poems and its music and its glass cities, it is also this dazzling darkness coming down the mountain, breathing and tasting. All day I think of her white teeth, her wordlessness, her perfect love. This loving the world, seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary, is a concept that was explored by the great rabbi of the later 20th century, Abraham Joshua Heschel. Heschel said, "Let us love the ordinary. Let us love the closeness of God and the sacred here and now. Let us cherish the everyday, the every breath, the where we are. And he also said, it takes three things to attain a sense of significant being: God, a soul, and a moment. And the three are always here. You see, we live by breath, by moment, and if we do so attentively, we can know the experience, we can experience the divine in this life, the extraordinariness of each and every ordinary moment. And how Heschel viewed the extraordinariness is exemplified in the following story from his life. It's something he would say when he gave an evening lecture, actually. As he began his lecture, he would say the following words: "Ladies and gentlemen, a great miracle has just occurred." Now, as the audience began to stir in puzzlement, the great theologian would elaborate: "Ladies and gentlemen, a great miracle has just taken place. The sun has gone down." Now, of all the things we take for granted in life, perhaps the fact that the day begins and the day ends might be the greatest of them all, for life is the greatest gift of all. Extraordinary, really, and yet ordinary. It's how we are present to life itself, how we live this life. We can cultivate the miraculousness of the ordinary out of what may seem mundane, the most everyday, the sunrise and the sunset, just simply being here with one another. This is the gift of the ordinary, and we can help create and find the miracle and magic in the ordinariness of life by simply being here, by simply being truly present and alive in this life. Attention is the beginning of devotion. We can help one another to do so too. We can find ways actually to plant little bits of magic in life for one another and for ourselves actually. We can leave little clues for one another too, things that can point the way if we do so deliberately. So I'm going to end actually with a beautiful little example of this by sharing a little story from Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. It was published over 50 years ago, actually, in 1974. So the little gift probably meant more then. And there's a beautiful piece of wisdom in this that for me brings to life the gift of the ordinary. A simple act with the humblest of objects that can transform lives. And I'm going to leave it with you without explanation as I come to the end, towards the end of this devotion. So Dillard wrote, "When I was 6 or 7 years old, growing up in Pittsburgh, I used to take a precious penny of my own and hide it for someone else to find. It was a curious compulsion. Sadly, I've never been seized by it since. For some reason, I always hid the penny along the same stretch of sidewalk up the street. I would cradle it at the roots of a sycamore, say, or in the hole left by a chipped off piece of sidewalk. Then I would take a piece of chalk and, starting at either end of the block, draw huge arrows leading up to the penny from both directions. After I learned to write, I labelled the arrows 'Surprise ahead' or 'Money this way.' I was greatly excited during all this arrow drawing at the thought of the first lucky passerby who'd receive in this way, regardless of merit, a free gift from the universe. But I never lurked about. I would go straight home and not give the matter another thought until, some months later, I would be gripped again by the impulse to hide another penny. Lovely, isn't it? May we be gripped by such impulse to leave little gifts so that others may find them. May we find ways to discover the gifts of life in the most ordinary of places. May we know the gift of the ordinary. Let us learn to bless this world with our extraordinary ordinariness. Amen. And I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So, may the Spirit of love open our eyes. May it shine light even upon the darkest of days. May we recognize the sacredness of one another, the sacredness of all life in all time and in all spaces. May we experience the ground at our feet, shake off our shoes, and know that we are walking on holy ground. There are no unsacred places. May our mortal human being cultivate extraordinary ordinariness. And may we bring the sacred vision with us. And may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen.